Today's guest conversation is with a World Series champion. I got to always say that. A World Series champion, former Major League right-handed pitcher Chad Durbin, 14-year big leaguer, on episode 88 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Chad Durbin, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I got a little coffee in the system, cooked some eggs and bacon. Ooh. You know, I fancied it up. I feel like I'm taking on the world today.
Dude, isn't that the truth? When you make eggs, you officially are conquering the day. How do you make your eggs?
Well, today I just did over medium. Look, there's a bunch of different ways to attack this thing.
Yes.
When the kids are around, I have daughters 12, a son who's 13, and a son who's 18, and collectively they all like them different ways.
Wow.
So I tell them, like, hey, if I do the scrambled eggs with cheese and a little bacon bits in there, you know who I'm going after today. You know who my favorite is right now. Maybe she did the dishes. Maybe he took out the trash. I don't know. And then, over medium is kind of, for me, I was like, if I'm too yolky and I got to talk here in a little bit, maybe that's not the best thing for me, but hey, worth it. Hashtag worth it, right?
Let's go. Hey, I love that. And I love the over easy. I like having some bread every once in a while, dip it in the yolk. But man, scrambled with like some cheese and then some salsa on top. That sounds delicious with the meat sprinkled in. Hey,
look, you watch MLB Network, right? Obviously, we all do. D-Row is one of the most genuine. It feels like you're in the locker room with him again. He's just fantastic. And Mark DeRosa will always ask guys, they'll have that in-park camera, and you got the guys for a day game. They were in there at like 8 o'clock, 8:30. He's like, hey, what's your go-to breakfast?
Yep.
And he's all fired up. And you can tell there's disappointment when a guy's like, oatmeal and some blueberries.
I know.
And he's like, wait, what are you doing?
I know.
Like, you got the chef waiting, like, hey, because you just do a flyby. You go into the, you're going to go do some arm stuff or move around, maybe a little, active warm up or whatever prior to the lift in the morning. And so you do a little flyby and you go tell, like, whoever's the cook is, like, hey, I want 3, over easy, 2 slices of wheat toast, butter. And how about let's do a waffle? Can you throw some chocolate chips in there? And you're like, absolutely. See you in a couple minutes. You go do your stuff, you come back in, and like it's literally waiting for you with another plate on top. So we know what that feels like, because it's just like you're living the dream. You try to do that to your wife, and she's like, no.
Yeah, you're gonna have frosted flakes, bro.
100%. Go clean out the pool filter. Take out the trash. You still haven't landscaped. I've been asking you for 2 weeks. I'm like, never mind. I'll make my own stuff.
Oh,
sorry for even doing the flyby. I love you, but gosh, dog.
Dude, hey, so I want to talk about this then, because you spent a long, long time in the big leagues. What was your go-to breakfast? Like, what was the breakfast of all breakfast when you were in the big leagues? You're like, yeah, you know what? That's what I'm having today.
Look, overdoing it, it would be like chocolate chip pancakes, syrup, 3 or 4 either scrambled eggs with cheese, like we were talking about, or I would, do 3 or 4 over easy, over medium, whatever. Look, oatmeal with some blueberries, maybe some Greek yogurt. Like, it was a pile of stuff in front of me, especially when I was younger and I was trying to stay at a certain weight. Get a little older, and it's like, how about we go with like some Greek yogurt and honey, a couple blueberries, and give me 1 or 2 eggs over medium. Even though eggs are phenomenal for you back then, you thought maybe they're not good. But yeah, I had different days. And here, I'll be dead honest about being over superstitious or just stitious or a little stitious or whatever you want to call it. Whatever I was eating that worked, I was going to eat. Like, I did peanut butter and honey sandwiches in 2008. I don't think I got into like above a 1 ERA until like early August. So I ate the same thing. To a fault. I was like, have a little, glass of bourbon and ice cream after a game. That's not sustainable either. Nope. And before the game, I would eat, what I ate. And after a while, it's just like, I'm glad. I don't want to give up runs, but I'm getting tired of eating the same stuff.
Hey, so you kind of, when it imploded finally out on the mound, you were probably like, oh, thank God I can have something different tomorrow.
100%.
For breakfast.
Philly cheesesteak from the visiting clubhouse. Pronto.
Let's go. That's awesome. Hey, talking with Chad Durbin today on episode 88 of the Baseball Forward podcast. I'd say friend of the show at this point. Chad, man, I love having you on. You're easily one of my favorite guys to talk to. It's so knowledgeable and just fun. And when I picture baseball, like I have 2 sons that play the game. I want them to play the game the way you live and the way you kind of hang out. And like, I really try to make them understand, and this stuff is not that important. Be lighthearted, take your job seriously, but don't take this stuff so seriously. What is it about you? Do you think that where does that come from? You're easy come, easy go, always kind of, I feel like you make people feel good. Where does that all come from?
Well, I think some people would probably, I'm very honest with my quality feedback. High-end quality feedback sometimes it hurts feelings, but I've found over the years that is one of the reasons I'm answering the question is that I'm honest with myself too. How important is this going to be next week or next year or 5 years from now really helps me manage certain things. And very rarely I'm tough. I'll be straightforward, and maybe the old school baseball player comes out with a little bit of a firm hand or firm words. But most of the time, if I'm ugly or mean to you, you need to reflect on why.
Interesting.
And if you ask me why, I'll probably tell you, and that might not be the best move for you either. But I think I moved from Illinois. I had a great little small town, LaSalle, Illinois, upbringing. I mean, you ride a bike 12 blocks or walk uphill in the snow, not barefoot, but to school. And I think that Midwest, kind of, it is what it is. We're just going to do what we said we were going to do kind of attitude was a perfect blend to coming down south. And, I moved here at 13 or just at the end of 12 and into 13. And different middle school atmosphere than I was, up north, and then high school is different, in great ways, but just I had to adjust. And I was very upset that I got moved. I was upset that I was away from my dad. My dad stayed in Rockford, Illinois for 2 years and then moved down. But I think just accepting things the way they are right now, and that it's not permanent, that, and then, the be where your feet are thing is something that I constantly say to myself, because you do get caught up in, what's it going to be like when my kid's a junior at Southern Miss? What's it going to be like when my 13-year-old is 16 years old? And it's like, no, man, you don't get these days back. You don't get, I'm just going to go watch my 12-year-old girl play volleyball and enjoy the heck out of the day. And I think that attitude started to play in for me at those young ages. Is I dreamed about being, at my mom's high school in Illinois and being a football, basketball, baseball, and track star and all this different stuff. And man, the rug got pulled, and not in a bad way. She married a great guy, and we moved down here, and my dad's great, my mom's great, but it just made me adjust to like what the realities are. And I think that, and I say it all to, like when I think playing basketball, I was good at it, but it was hard. It was really hard. Basketball down here is, 95 points, run and gun. You're going to get beat. You're going to get dunked on. How do you respond? It's embarrassing. Can I play at a high level and also be embarrassed at the same time and process information? And I think that because baseball wasn't really tough for me until AA, AAA. I mean, I had bad outings at times, but, a 19-year-old kid playing A ball, 20-year-old kid playing high A, I battled and did, but I don't think I get kicked in the teeth. And when I did, I got to reflect back on life. Yeah. How did I respond when I wasn't where I wanted to be? What do I do? Am I going to still do the things that I said I was going to do? And I think that's why I appreciate people for what they're doing right now. I try to meet people where they are right now. Yeah. I'm sure I miss sometimes, but I try to meet them where they are in the moment. Like, am I going to critique a 16-year-old's bullpen, his first bullpen of December leading into a January season? Am I gonna critique it at a high level, or when he misses, not say anything? Wow. When he spikes a curveball, what am I going to say? I mean, maybe I just need to let him fix it. And so I think about that. My demeanor is, I like to see people do things well, but I also know that without failure, without getting kicked in the teeth and responding, like, you're really not going to get any better. And I think what I wanted to say this, there was a signing day the other day. And so you had the gym at school and you had two football players, one going to UL, one going to LSU as a kicker. And I played high school baseball with his dad. His name's Gavin Higgins, man. He good baseball player, but he was the one that I was seeking out. There were 3 volleyball players and then 2 baseball players, but I wanted to go talk to him and be like, hey, embrace the misses, because there are 20 makes for every miss.
Dang.
I wanted to just, because that was my thought cycling through my head.
Yeah.
And it's the truth about a lot of things is we don't embrace that failure. And I found myself at the end of my career kind of smiling in spite of, I'd make a bad pitch, guy hits it in a gap. And you start to, look for causation. Like what was that miss? How did I get there? What were the last 3 at bats with that guy? Did I just make a bad pitch, or did he just make a really good swing? How did I evaluate this? So I got to the point where I was like smiling in the face of some adversity at an older age, because I knew it was going to yield really well. And there's a little anecdote. I think somebody was talking to Derek Jeter one time. I know I walked out of a stadium with him one time when he's hitting like 240, and it was me and a couple other guys. I think Brent Maine was the catcher walking out with me.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Man, how you doing? I know it's been a slow start." He goes, "The league's in trouble. Water finds its level. I'm about to hit 350 for the next 2 months. Y'all are in trouble." Like, that was his thought process.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that's different. Like, and that's kind of, he was where his feet were. He's like, I'm going to be fine. And he embraced, like, okay, maybe I'm not right where I want to be. I know Chase Utley was that way with hitting. Like, we would look at it like, okay, his on base percentage is 405, but he's hitting 260. He's about to go off. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad it's going to be on the back half of the season. So to answer your question, why am I the way I am? It's collectively watching guys handle situations really well, watching coaches respond to adversity really well, not throwing chairs across courts, which there's a time for that. I know Bobby Knight was fun to watch, but it was just, this collective kind of organism that is who you are. All your past experiences, all, your learned behaviors. And that's kind of what I chase. And I know I'm teaching kids how to act because I don't think about myself like the 14-year big leaguer, but once people know it about you, and especially in any baseball setting, they're looking to see how you behave, how you respond, what you do. And maybe they look at it like a little bit of apathy at times, like, oh man, he just doesn't care. So no, that's patience.
Wow.
And it allows me to be positive with people. It allows me to silver lining a lot of stuff. My wife does not like that about me, because, she wants to beat a dead horse sometimes. And I'm like, no, I there's a lot of really good things about this individual. And this one thing that you're harping on just isn't his thing, or isn't her thing. And she's like, go away. I'm going to go call somebody so I can get on the same level with that human. She's like, and I get it a lot of times. They're like, oh, I don't want the PC version. Or my daughter will say, Dad, stop trying to teach me all the time. Oh, my bad, my fault. You know, but she does. She like get in a car with another little volleyball girl, and they'll complain about something. And I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to respond? Oh, Dad, stop. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, no Chick-fil-A for you.
Yeah, that's right, man.
So I think that's why the collective answer there is I'm just a product of all my experiences, and I guess to choose more of a positive light on things. Maybe I know I've always been very good at seeing finding silver linings and reinforcing those things. Optimism is a choice. I think it's a superpower. Yes. So for me, that's kind of what I chase is, and it's easy to go down some dark trails. And the more you look for it, the more you're going to see it. So that's me. That's kind of what I try to do.
Man, what a good answer, Chad. And I because boy, like as we relate it to baseball, the game is so hard. You obviously know that more than anybody, but the game is so hard, and it's refreshing. Do you as a do you realize there's an expectation on you? Like, because we're going to get back to a story that you told offline about you're a humble guy. You don't talk about yourself. People will talk about, they always say what you don't have to talk about yourself if you're great. Well, I mean, yeah, you're pretty great, man. Like you don't talk about yourself. You're humble about it. But do you realize that there's an expectation on you? Do you realize that like the smart people are probably trying to learn from guys that have been to the mountaintop? I know I sit and I listen. We're roughly the same age, but I know that I learn because I think the mentality that you have, he does it differently, and here's the evidence. Do you realize that there's an expectation on you when people like meet you and know who you are and how they expect you to act or behave?
I think as a post career, let's talk about, like, it's so much different when you're playing versus your post career, and your post career changes along the way. Hey, oh, he just retired. That's a different thing than my last pitch was thrown in May of 2013.
Good point.
And that's a long time ago when we really think about it.
Yeah.
And so you have these paths, and I might feel, I don't think I saw it quite as much as I see it now. My first time through with my 18-year-old, I was just being a dad, or just responding or not responding, because I thought it was the right choice. And I kind of tease him with this thought, but I said, did you notice that during your 18 years of growing up, I was also growing up and learning?
Man,
like I've had to learn along the way, and I didn't get everything right, but I'm trying, and I'm trying to be present with my thoughts. But some parents or kids or coaches, I like the coaches that they reach out and they ask questions like, what do you think about this? Was this a good thing? How did I respond in that bad moment? Was I jumping up and down and throwing a fit and pointing fingers at my player? Or was I very, patient, talk to him in the dugout afterwards? How do y'all do it? How did you see the best responses over time? And that, like, it made me think about, okay, even the way I'm standing, my body language, all those things matter to someone that might be taking their own emotions and their own insecurities and projecting it onto the way that I'm standing in a moment. And I might just be responding to my dad texting me that, his dog passed away. I'm like, oh gosh, dog, that sucks.
Yeah.
But that's not what that third base coach or that head coach, he looks over and he's like, oh man, he doesn't agree that I stole right there.
Yeah.
And we got thrown out, and it's like, oh crap. I don't think that, but I know that that's the way I would be. If there's a big leaguer present and I've never done that, and I'm a baseball guy and I love it, I'm watching to see how they respond to everything.
That's a fact.
And I think Winston Churchill had a quote like, when you're in your 20s, you worry about what everybody thinks. When you're in your 40s, you stop caring what people think. And when you're in your 60s, you realize nobody was really thinking about you at all.
Wow, man.
And I think the older I get, the more I realize, like, you're not people aren't thinking about me anywhere near as much as I thought they might have been. And I did go through the period where I don't give a crap what you think about me. I'm just going to do the right thing and hope that holds water for a long time. And now that I'm not 60, but I am ever aware of the fact that other people are really just thinking about themselves 90% of the time.
Man, that's so true.
Even the best of us, even people that are in volunteer positions and philanthropic positions and pastors and priests, even in those situations, maybe it's an uptick a little bit on percentage, but they are still ever present of themselves. And if you can think about, and there's a term in psychology for this, but if you can think about why am I thinking the things I'm thinking right now, so that I can, process the information and make a really educated next step. And I know I did it really well as a player, but playing isn't life. I mean, it is a microcosm of it.
Sure is.
I do love that it teaches us the lessons, and that hard is, you get good at doing hard better. That was me, as I could process a situation at light speed towards the end of my career. The advantage I think about Roger Clemens, I think about Barry Bonds, I think about some of the best guys, two that I hope get into Hall of Fame, and I could take shots for it from guys like
I agree.
They're just, they're the best players of that era. Correct. And they're not in yet. Correct. But I think about them, they were really good at 22 and 23 and 24, and they were really good at 35 and 38 years old. But man, 28 to 32 years old, their bodies were still capable of doing what their brains had surpassed on knowledge. They were able to go execute at a really high level, and they had gotten enough reps in the baseball life where they were light years ahead of everybody. And I think about that. Maybe in life that's more like 45 to 60 years old, and you just like, why battle the gray-haired guy on the battlefield? Like, he's been there, he's alive for a reason. Like, the old coaches, they run circles around the young guys for a reason. They've seen this before. It all slows down just like a hanging slider. Brad Lidge throwing it to Pujols and he hits it out. We've seen him make some quotes, but he said, I swung at the first one, it was in the dirt. Like, I got beat on the first one, but I processed the information and I hit the next one, on the train tracks. But I think about that all the time. Like, we're always learning. And if you're aware of why you're thinking what you're thinking at the time, you can really take the next step, with a different level of, it's not just responsive. It's like, hey, I just had this thought, but why am I thinking this?
Dude, I literally told my boys the other day, we were sitting down and like a week ago during Thanksgiving break, we were out just taking some ground balls and just having fun. And the exact thing that I said to him, because I remember one of the best coaches that I ever had, Benny Castillo, always said, "You're not that important." And it's not meant as a dig. And when you realize, no, I am important. I'm the best at no, you're not. Relax.
Yeah.
And that goes to everybody. But I told him, I said, you're not that important. And nobody's thinking about you as much as you're thinking about yourself. And I think for me as a man, when I realized as a man that I'm the most comfortable in my own skin now than I ever have been, and I can't imagine it getting any getting worse. It's just only going to get better, and it's because I had that realization of I'm just not that important, and anything I'm doing is just not that big of a deal, and you should have fun doing it. Is that if you were giving advice to young guys in their mentality as like being on the mound or getting over stuff, is that kind of the direction that you'd go for them?
Well, I think the best way to, yes, the answer is yes. And the best way that I see this kind of play out is the rankings come out, and a kid is having the best year of his life, PRing on every level, gaining the weight, all of his goals, just click, 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 green check mark, green check mark, green check mark. And the rankings come out, and comparison's the thief of joy, right?
Yes.
So you immediately like compare yourself to that person.
Yep.
And it's toxic. And so you need quality feedback, high quality feedback for a person like me or like you or Tyler Knockin, who's with BPA with me.
Yep.
It's really quickly. It's like, hey man, you're where you're at right now, and we met all of the criteria. We have killed it, and we have new goals set out on. You've been the best version of yourself, and that's what we're shooting at. You can't control that the other kid just grew 4 inches and is throwing 95.
That's right.
But you just jumped from 81 to 87 as a 16-year-old, and you're on your way. What do we, if we're worried about that person, if we're letting him occupy space in our own thoughts, then we're not concentrated on what we, the best version of ourselves. And I really, one of the best ways to do this and it's manipulative, but in a very positive way,
Correct.
is you tell, said kid that we're talking about okay, if you're feeling like, the world's crumbling in on you, you didn't get what you wanted, which is good, because then it's, go get better. I think the Jocko Willink, 2 minutes is some of the best stuff that you can process, but lift up somebody else. Who else wasn't on that ranking list? Or who was? And go over there and tell them, man, I know how hard you've worked, and I'm proud of you, man. I hope I get there too. Let's build together. Like, if you're doing that, you don't have time in your own head to complain and cycle through that level of complaint. And it's a tool, just like working one hand, through the ball at shortstop instead of just funneling everything. Like, okay, I have to work on this new tool. Well, the new tool in thought, and I really feel when we get to pitching in a second, I feel like it's a missing piece with all of the rest of it coming, is the ability to actually think and control your thoughts and control your emotions and know what the next couple steps are in your process. And if you don't have a process, let's sit down and let's talk about what that is. Yes. You're just doing what you're being told to do, and I appreciate that. But is that your process? And who have you talked to about it? How can we get better? And so I guess there's some manipulation there, but you're really trying to steer someone to the level of thoughts that really are going to let you take off. Like, if I could sit down before I'm going to talk to a group, or before I'm going to go in every day, if I could just sit down and watch 10 minutes of Nick Saban speaking to groups, whether it's business or his team, some of the ways he thinks, some of the ways he presents things is at such a high level that you just you get excited to say or regurgitate some of those things that he's saying, because it works. Man. So that's my thought on that. And I have to do it with my own kids. They tire of me Like I said, my daughter's like, Dad, come on, it's not always a lesson. I was like, but it is.
Yeah,
and I'm competitive.
Yep.
And I think real quick, one thing with her, I don't know how old are your boys?
12 and 11.
Okay. We have an agreement, my daughter, and I did not do this with the boys, and I wish I would have, but I had a moment where I'm walking into a gym and I'm a little late, second set or whatever, a volleyball match. And I walk in and I know she's having a bad day just by her body language.
Wow.
And I sat down, my wife's like, oh yeah, I mean, she's just hasn't been her normal self or whatever. And I was more upset. She finished really well that day, but which, proud of you, tip my hat. But we made an agreement afterwards. I said, when you're ready to talk and when you're ready to receive information, let's talk. And it took her about 2 hours. She walked back downstairs after showering and stuff. She's like, all right, what? Okay. Here's the deal. Can we have an agreement that when I walk into a gym, any gym, and you're on the court playing, that I can't tell whether you're having a good or bad day? Can we have an agreement? She's like, absolutely. You could tell today. I said, right away. Like, just shift it on your side, like shaking your head, making excuses in your own commentary in your own head. I said, I could tell right away. And you did a great job of adjusting to it. But if you're going to lead, your body language and your response, mechanisms, I shouldn't be able to tell.
Wow.
And so we have an agreement. She still has moments, but she said, oh, you're in the back of my head now. Like, what's everybody else see when I'm standing here? I'm like, they're good.
And that is absolute gold. I'm doing it with my boys. I'm going to go get them out of school right now and tell, but that, hey dude, I love that because, it shows if you can show control over your emotions.
Oh yeah.
You can show you're telling you have control over what's going on inside. Think about how hard that is. You know what I always find too is like, I know that I'm dealing with someone that's elite or that's very comfortable with themselves when whatever they take the most seriously in their life, and you can kind of joke at and you kind of dig at them a little bit and make a joke about maybe something that a normal person would get offended with and be like, hey, how could you say that about? But they kind of laugh it off like your opinion doesn't really matter because I'm doing my thing. That to me is like a sign of maturity that, hey, it's okay to laugh at yourself. No matter what you think, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm absolutely going to be using that on my kids. Talking with Chad Durbin, episode 88 of the Baseball Forward podcast today. Hey, I have to get to this story quick and make it, and then we'll get into pitching. But I talked about you being humble and people not knowing, and you have a brilliant story that goes with this. Chad, I'm gonna tee it up. Chad's wife, his name is Crystal, and they met when he was they're almost 20 years married, but they met, and when they met, sparks flew, emotions ran high, and they were the ones, right? And how long did it take your wife to realize that you were a big leaguer? That, oh, by the way, I got some coin, baby, and oh, by the way, I'm on TV. And how long did it take Miss Crystal to realize that, oh crap, this dude's kind of important in the world of baseball?
Yeah. So, it took a minute, and she jokes about it and said, it's just naivete is what she kind of, she's like, I just wasn't thinking that was even an option on the her bingo card did not have, I'm dating a big leaguer on it,
wow.
Or an athlete at all. She was like, hey, you're all, who you are. It is what it is. So, in 2001, 9/11 happened. I was going to travel the world for about 2 months, and obviously had to cancel everything because, that it was insane. So stayed home, met my wife through one of my best friends. She, my credit card got canceled on our first date. Like, it didn't go through. She had to pay for it. Which maybe that's the catalyst for her thinking this dude's not.
You plotted that.
Right. Yeah. Like, hey, 800 number, cancel this. This is perfect. So we date for a little while. We become pretty exclusive in a short amount of time. Having a blast. She's awesome. It's actually October 22nd of this year was our 20th anniversary. So we've been together for 25, 26 years, 20 years married. So, we date, we're around each other every day. We're having, Thanksgiving and Christmas, or it's kind of cool, with the person that you really want to be with, exchanging gifts and all that. And then January hits, and I tell her, hey, she asked, I think I told you, she asked something about like, a Super Bowl party. Maybe it was her mom or stepdad or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to be gone for that. She's like, oh, well, when are you back? And I was like, October, maybe. She's like, wait. Why are you leaving for 10 months? Why are you leaving for 9 months? I'm like, I play baseball. And she's like, I mean, I knew you played baseball, but I didn't know you still play baseball. And that's kind of where it clicked for her. She's like, so wait, like you play in the big leagues? I'm like, yeah, for the Kansas City Royals. She goes, who's that? She's like, who is that? I'm like, fair. I know who they are. I know who George Brett is, but she doesn't.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a process. She was like, okay, so you go to like Kansas City? And I'm like, no, I go to Florida. Florida? Why would you go to Florida? Yep. Well, you go down there for spring training because it's nice weather and all that stuff. Kansas City still got snow in February. So anyway, that all plays out. And I end up, I end up that year in 2002, I end up getting hurt, having Tommy John in September. I'm hurt in spring training. And most guys would have probably dropped her, bad luck, all that stuff. I didn't have, but that whole like arc of getting to know what I did and then not really getting to experience being a big leaguer's girlfriend until she was, I think in 2004, I got back up in 2003 and 2004 and she got to do it a little bit, but it wasn't the same. I was in survival mode then.
Sure.
And she got to adjust to it all, but yeah, she's seen a lot and she didn't have to do the minor leagues with me at 19, 20 and 21, but I didn't even like myself back then. Sure. I don't know if she would have liked me. But yeah, it's a pretty anecdotal story for me not had like the stuff behind me right now. I mean, obviously that stuff's earned. That's an 2008 jersey, an 2009 jersey. My first big league hit, my first big league strikeout, a dog pile over here from the 2008 World Series. Like that all happened and I'm proud of it. But she had to frame those things and say, hey, you need to have a space where you remember who the heck you are.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I get it. But I don't want that to be what my kids have to think about every time I turn a corner either.
Yeah.
Or people that I meet. And so there's a balance there. I guess everybody hangs their hat on whatever they've done, their accomplishments. If I founded a Fortune 500 company, I'm wearing their gear. I mean, I know Kurt Ainsworth and Joe Lawrence and Jack Marucci, they wear their Marucci gear walking around because they're proud of what they accomplished. So I guess that, I did do it for 17 years and 14 in the big leagues. Man. I guess I should be proud of it.
And you should be. and I think it's hilarious. Because I think about, I had a conversation, I won't get into it, with another guy who's currently in the big leagues. And he told me, he reached out and said, hey, he's getting married, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, tell me kind of how that all went down and like, how'd you meet her, blah, blah. But I think of the moment, because I think most women, most logical women are, I'll probably offend somebody, but a lot of women are attracted to athletes. And I imagine the moment when the woman is told, I'm a big leaguer. I imagine the moment where they're like, boom, this one's not getting away.
And what's funny is like, she's not that way. She's like, crap, you're not going to be here. I got to jump through hoops. I don't even like traveling. If you're going to play one of these sports, why not basketball? Like, so it was a little bit of a head fake, got her in the air. Yeah. And then afterwards, she didn't come back and play defense. She was about to walk off the court. She's like, I don't even want to do this. Man. So it did complicate things, not in a bad way, but it was certainly not what she expected.
Yeah.
I left. I think leave. Her birthday is February 15th. So the double whammy of Valentine's Day and her birthday. And almost every year after that year, I left for spring training right around that window of time. Yeah. It's defined in a lot of ways, who we are and who we were. And it's also kind of helped us remember to not let that define us at the same time. So it's, it's kind of fed us at the same time.
Love it. Love it. All right. Talking with Chad Durbin, episode 88 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Hey, Chad, let's get into some pitching stuff. Okay. Yeah. So just some general stuff that like is on my mind that I want to get your take on. The first thing that comes to my mind that I want your opinion on is maybe it's selfish, 12 and 11, but I want your thoughts on ages, throwing breaking balls. When is it okay to start it? Like, and then I also, let me start it by saying this. It's it's what are we, December 5th, something like that right now. Yeah, December 5th. So we're December 5th. Obviously we're in the off season right now. Are guys, should you be throwing? Like, what are you doing let's start with this question. I won't confuse you. What should you be doing as a pitcher this time of the year? And let's say, I don't really even care what the age is, but when I ask you as a pitcher, what should you be doing in December? What comes to mind?
I think about, I'll use kind of pro baseball, and meaning that we need to be able to be on a mound and throw, in a competitive scenario in maybe the first or second week of February.
Yep.
And the only reason I pushed that timeline a little closer to February 1st is because high schools down south, I-10 and I-20 across the country, their first baseball games, their jamborees and their, first scrimmages and inter squads and everything are in January. And so if it's December 5th and we really need 6 to 8 weeks to ramp our arm up in almost a return to throw scenario, I got to get ready to get on the mound and be competitive. You should probably be in your second or third week of ramping up. And that first week of throwing is 60 feet, 70 feet, maybe 80 feet. Like, it is very, and 70 or 80% effort, and slowly we ramp up to, long toss and pull downs and flat grounds and maybe a short box, meaning instead of 60 feet for a high school, we're throwing it 54, 55 feet downhill to a catcher, 12 fastballs. Most of the time, as soon as guys pick up the ball and they've been lifting or they've been putting on a little bit of weight, or a 11 or 12-year-old, they pick up the ball and they want to impress everybody. Look, I grew a couple inches, or, I didn't, and I still need to prove to everybody that I can throw it.
Yep.
And I think that to me is it's the world we live in now, is constantly scrolling on their screen and seeing somebody, throw a ball 100 miles an hour, or this new breaking ball I want to try out. And being able to have a place like PPA, or someone, pitching coach or a head coach in high school, or even the 14 and under ranks, where somebody actually has a plan in place and they try to hold people accountable to it. Because the most dangerous stretch of time is once you're kind of hot, you're close, 6 weeks of throwing, getting on the mound, and you want to see whether or not your velocity's up and you want to go PR. That is the most dangerous time for soft tissue. You need to, I think in an old school way, Pedro Martinez says we have to prep the ligament. He says, prep the ligament, meaning I'm going to throw and I'm going to continue to throw until I feel like my arm's pretty close to ready. And obviously when it's your profession, you do treat it a little bit differently.
Sure.
But a kid right now needs to be in their second, depending on when they start. Up north, maybe it's a March start to the season, or even April. So they won't really pick up a ball until right after Christmas and maybe even the first week of January, and you ramp up. But at the very least, you need to be making sure that your body is mobile, that you're working on core and stability, arm care, have a thrower's 10 or some kind of, go on Jaeger Sports or whatever, and get some kind of routine, because this is where you start to build. And so easing on in and getting your arm ready, your body ready, giving it time to respond. I mean, I think we go day on, day off, day on, day off the first week or two. And then it's 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. Then it's 3 days on. And we make sure that guys take their off days serious. So it's complicated. It's hard to hold the line, especially for the younger guys. They want to go show off. And the truth is, you asked about breaking balls, and I'll kind of, transition into that.
Yep.
If we think about what they're doing when we're not watching, let's say they're out in the front yard, or they're throwing breaking balls.
Good point.
And they're taking the blitz ball and they're ripping through it, and they're like, hey, I know we're not supposed to throw this, but watch this.
That's right.
So what we need to do is teach them to do it the right way, instead of saying don't throw them. That's fine. It can work. The truth is, if you throw it the right way, it's less stressful on your arm than fastball. And but most kids, I don't know, 50-50 don't throw it the right way. Maybe do throw it the right way, or try to throw it too hard, or who knows, or grip it different, or grip it too tight. And learning from someone who has an idea can really help you kind of transition into that. I think at 11 years old, 12 years old, I used to reward, if you can get into an 0-2 count, you can throw a curveball.
Interesting.
So we're gonna earn it.
Yep. And they want to throw it so bad.
And sometimes, my kid would be like, well, I mean, I just blew 2 fastballs by him as much as I want to throw the curveball. I'm throwing another fastball. I'm like, good for you, dude.
Yes, that's elite.
Yes, that was so. It just, that's a reward. As a coach, you're like, good. We've said it enough that they hurt us. But yeah, just learning when to do that. I guess in your ramp, I think we throw changeups first. In part of our come back in and throwing, and then curveballs we go short of their distance. If they're throwing at 50 feet, which yours are right now,
yep.
Then they would spin a curveball at like 40 and 40, 45 feet in some kind of fixed position where they have to get in the right positions, and never throw a breaking ball much further than their distance unless they're working on, something different. But just having a really good plan and executing it and making it fun.
You said something, and I want because boy, I love hearing what you said. Don't throw it at a further distance. Explain why. Like, so when you're learning how to throw a curveball, or you're learning how to throw that stuff that tumbles, the phrase that comes to my mind is to, not through, like with the breaking pitch, right? So explain why you don't want to go too far when you're learning how to throw, when you're throwing those breaking balls.
Sure. Well, the idea with a breaking ball is that you want it to present like your fastball for as long as it can. So if I'm throwing it at 50 feet or even short of there, it's coming straight out of my hand towards the target, or maybe up a little bit towards the top of the zone and then breaking in. But if I go back, I'm having to cast it. I'm having to launch it straight up. And you're really reinforcing bad habits. And it may look like it's breaking, but that's just gravity. Versus like in our progressions, I'll use 60 feet for this example, but at 45 feet or 40 feet, we're getting in like a 10 toes straight towards you, pivot and throw it. We want that ball to spin and not break much at all. We want it spinning tight and straight at your target. And then as we progress back, that same shape should happen, straight and then break.
Yep.
And then you finally get to 60 feet and you're able to kind of, feel that I've been, I'm maybe 10 breaking ball reps in, and I'm trying to throw it straight out and let it break instead of cast it and roll it in there. And if they can't do that stuff right, if they can't get through the progressions right, we're not going to throw it at 60 feet. We got to make sure that we establish throwing it the right way.
The throwing it straight, Chad, at the 45 feet, you're not going to see the break. Why?
I mean, if it's spinning tight, if we're doing what we want to do, if it's spinning tight, the air's not going to grab it.
Yep.
And if you roll it slow or you throw it the wrong way and kind of alligator arm it, then it's gonna show break, and you'll be like, that was nasty. No, it wasn't. If we see, we'll go to the hitter's side of it. If they see break early, then they know it's a curveball.
Yep.
And in pitching in general, I've got to talk to guys who want to have 3 different breaking balls at 16, 17, 18 years old. They have a riding 4-seamer, good vert, good VAA, and they've got a changeup that has, anti-vert or whatever you want to call it, low vert. And then they want to throw this sweeper, instead of a breaking ball that plays off of that. And it's like, okay, you hit. If something just immediately starts to move a different way than everything else, then the hitters are going to see it.
Easy to see.
So are we trying to get out the 8-hole at kind of a mediocre high school, or are we trying to get out the 3-hole that you're going to face at the college level if you're good enough? So I'm not going to teach you like a big leaguer, but I'm going to try to teach you at a high level as we can get, so that you understand the why. Because I really feel like, as much as I just did what the coaches told me when I was younger, I feel like now we have to give them the why a little bit and tell them, well, this is the reason that I want your third breaking ball to go in your back pocket. Your best pitch is your fastball, and we need to play off that. And obviously we're not working with a 12 or a 13 or 14-year-old on that level. We're really, all of what we do is really trying to throw strikes and execute. And the more we can pound the zone, the more we can actually execute on a plan like that. But we do get to guys that are 17, 18 years old that, they're potential draft picks. They're going to be going to an SEC school or a Power 4 school. And yeah, we need you to be educated on the metrics and educated on, some of the old school metrics, strike one percentage, 1-1 counts one, all that stuff, but also the new school stuff. You need to understand the best attributes that you have, so that we can go out there and understand when I'm trying to get a guy out, when I'm trying to make a team in college and make a roster, I'm not trying to show you that my fourth pitch is good. I'm going to show you that my first two and maybe my third are really good. And so, well, I have this and I have that. I didn't have really a fourth pitch until I was 28 years old.
Golly.
So let's dominate with those first two or three.
Just say that again. This is a 14-year big leaguer, and you didn't have your what number pitch until you were 28 years old?
I didn't really have a fourth pitch until I was about 27 or 28 years old.
Oh, I get scared because listen, like I watch Shohei. I always call him Shohei. Shohei, I drop bombs. I always like I hear you. Hey, he's got 5, 6, 7 pitches, and I'm like, listen, they're freaks. But I get nervous because when I hear young guys, because then they fall in love and it's sexy. Hey, I want that pitch. I want that pitch. I want that pitch. You said play off the fastball. Okay. So when I think of this video that I saw the other day of Barry Zito throwing a non-believable fastball where the catcher had to jump up to his right to catch it. And I'm like, that ball is way out of the zone. And it's not even a competitive pitch, but it is competitive because the next pitch he went back to was the same height with his yak. So when you say playoff, how as like a developing pitcher, do I understand what pitches I should learn? I get it. Fastball, changeup, duh. But where do I go from there?
So I guess the simplest way to think about this is if my slot is like up here,
okay,
then it's hard to throw a two-seam from up there.
Correct.
Or sinker. And as we start to move down, and if you notice, my spine is not like arcing and all that stuff. Everybody throws from kind of the same slot. It's just, how we go through it. But the way the ball comes out of your hand is going to dictate how the ball is going to move on the way to the plate. And so, and we can see it real quick with a TrackMan or Pitch Logic or Rapsodo or whatever. It's going to show you the tilt, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, lefties the other way. It's going to show you. And so if it's 130 or more, you're a guy that's probably going to have horizontal run, arm side run. Yes. And if you're 130 to midnight, you're going to have a ride on the ball. And if you have a ride on the ball, then pitching at the top of the zone is what everybody talks about. But there is no top of the zone if you don't establish the bottom also.
Interesting.
So, and it's the same thing. I heard Greg Maddux say this, and it reminded me that the best swings and misses I got on changeups were after I landed a fastball at the bottom. Because that plays. I know we want to tunnel the changeup. Maybe we move a guy or we throw a fastball at the top of the zone, then throw a changeup. But if we really want a guy to swing at one that a catcher blocks up, then we need to throw that same pitch needs to hit the bottom of the zone well too. And so when we're trying to teach a kid or trying to convince him and buy in, I want buy-in. I'll typically ask them, where are your misses or where do you find the most success? And by about 15, 16, 17 years old, they obviously have been playing some summer ball if they're any good. They're pretty good and they're starting on their high school team or they're close to it. And you get to ask them, well, do you get a lot of ground balls, a lot of swings and misses? Do you get a lot of fly balls? And that answer typically matches up with where they let go of the ball or how they spin it. Sure. Slow spin rate, it used to be, I'm terrible because I can't spin the ball well. Well, slow spin, gravity plays in, we're going to throw sinkers. So we might need to drop your slot a little bit. We don't really play with slots a ton. I look for athleticism, but if we're a guy that's throwing a riding four-seamer, then the curveball is a pitch that can probably play in. If you can't spin a ball like this because you can't quite, pronate or supinate the way we want you to, then we can throw a bullet slider that's going to play into the vertical more than it is going to play into the horizontal.
Love it.
And so, there's north-south guys. We've heard that since, I started playing. They're like, oh, you're a guy that's north-south, but we want you down in the zone. It's like, wait, hold on. There's no north, and metrics have really helped. I would have been a totally different pitcher early in my career because I had a lot of ride on about 94, 95 mile an hour. I was 91 to 95, but I had a ton of ride up in the zone, but everything needed to be at the bottom. Like if I threw a ball up, I was going to get chastised for it.
Wow.
So knowing that now, and I had a good curveball, really good curveball, but I didn't throw it much because the zone wasn't called the way it is now. So we had to find other pitches to throw.
Wow.
And I would have probably hurt myself many times over if I did have a track man to come home and throw to. I had to learn how to feel it. So we don't track man or Rapsodo every pen they throw. We kind of have some mile markers. Let's see if our eyes match up with the data. But unless you can execute at the top of the zone or the bottom of the zone, or we can have pitches that play in the zone tunnel, and that's what you're saying, it plays off the fastball. We're talking about tunneling.
Yep.
We're talking about everything looking the same for as long as possible. And there's new terms that come into play every couple of years. And my son, who, is at Southern Miss, just had Tommy John 7 weeks ago, but, he has he's got some metrics that really play really well. He's 6 foot tall and his VAA is really low. That angle is really acute. So you really can't, when he lets go of a ball, you can't tell if it's going to be middle, up, above the zone until late. Like guys will just, start their swing and then miss by 1.5 feet. And they're like, I thought I was on that.
And you can tell that if your son's name is Cade, correct?
Yes.
If I was out watching Cade, just watching with my eyeballs and not paying attention to any of the TrackMan, Rapsodo, any of that stuff, my guess is, based on what you just said, I could say it doesn't look like these guys are taking real comfortable swings. It looks like they're deciding late. It looks like they're confused. Is that plays in kind of how you build or profile or pinpoint what a guy should be doing?
Yeah, and every once in a while I ran into this with him. We did everything on Rapsodo for the first couple of years. We didn't have TrackMan, but he went to events. He went to the PBR futures games, and they give you a TrackMan report. They send it afterwards, and I'm looking through the TrackMan. I'm like, what the hell is VAA?
Yeah.
What the hell is HAA? Yep. What is it? What was it good? Like, obviously he went out and pitched well, so I know he was pretty good. And Jim was there, Schwank was there. And I was like, yeah, he did well. Pitched up in the zone, landed some breaking balls, got a good changeup, landed some fastballs on the outside corner. But I didn't know. Like what is, 4.2 degree, 3.8, 3.5, 3.0 VAA. What's good?
Yeah. You're like, what?
I mean, I can picture it, and man, I would have used ChatGPT back then. It was around, but I didn't know about it. So I had to reach out to people. I reached out to Zach Day, who was a first-round pick with the Expos. I ran into him with the Nationals, and then he popped back on the scene. He was with TrackMan for like 10 years, Pitch AI, and then he's been with Newt Force Mounds for the last 4 or 5 years. Brilliant guy who also was a first-round pick and pitched in the big leagues. So I was like, hey, call me in a couple minutes. I have no idea what I'm looking at. And he's like, what? And I was like, Cade just pitched his nuts off. And, he wasn't, he's 85, 87 at 15 years old. It wasn't like he was lighting up the radar gun, but he made some guys look dumb. And I don't need the metrics, but I do want to learn them. So I understand, if not just for him, but for everybody. And he's like, oh yeah, there's some unicorn, qualities here.
Wow.
He's throwing with like a 20-inch vert, which is good. 16 to 14 means it's kind of a dead zone. 13 to 16 means everybody that's ever thrown you BP in their life, and that's where the ball's landing. Yep. So in an inch, the baseball is 2.5 inches. So if we're at 16 and we're at 20, we're, baseball and a half above where the hot zone is. So obviously that's good. But if you only had if a VAA is at really flat angle, so you can't tell if it's going to do this, or if it's going to do this, or it's going to do this. Yep. And so it made sense once he explained it. But he's like, I said, well, okay, well, what's a bad VAA? Well, it kind of depends on where your release height is and all this different stuff. I was like, okay, what about the big 6'7" guy who's throwing downhill? He goes, okay, 7+ angle is good. And okay, well, that makes sense. So there's a zone in there that's not good. Yes, with every statistic. I said, what about HAA? Guys that throw from, Chris Sale and all that stuff. He's like, yeah, that's a whole other thing. And it really is the north-south versus the east-west, thing. And so guys are going to have that. It's like, okay, well, so everything builds off that. How do I coach that? And we do this. I'm sure you heard it. Every once in a while, you just got to leave a guy the hell alone.
Yeah.
Because you don't screw him up is kind of what Jack Cresson, who's my buddy I told you about, I think prior to talking, or being live. But he's brilliant baseball mind. He's the Dodgers cross checker. He's been with Andrew Friedman since Tulane, really. He talks about, like, there are some guys that I would start to work with, and he's like, don't screw them up.
Wow.
Don't say too much. Just let them go.
Yeah.
And with my kid, in a lot of ways, I just let it go. And he already knew what was good based on how the hitters responded.
Sure.
And I'll give you an example of a hitter being able to, take in that information at a really high level. JoJo Parker is from Mississippi. He was first round pick with the Blue Jays. Cade played summer with him. His twin, Jacob Parker's at Mississippi State. He was going to be a second round pick. They're just super talented twins. They have a hell of a story. If I can send you some stuff afterwards, man.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal family, phenomenal kids, but they came into Baton Rouge from Mississippi. They're just outside of Hattiesburg and Purvis. They came in because they wanted to throw, but they really wanted a plan. They're not pitchers, but they're going to pitch in high school. So how do we make sure they don't get hurt? They're both committed to Mississippi State and all that stuff. So they come in, they throw, and while one brother's throwing or another kid's throwing, JoJo's up against the screen, like kind of looking at, like, why is this good? Why is this not good? And then used my kid, like, hey, is that why when I'm trying to hit off Cade, why the fastball feels like it's just climbing up my body while I'm swinging? I'm like, that him not being big actually plays into the way that he throws and the way the ball spins and the way I said, if you've got to cover that pitch, doesn't it make down really tough to hit? He goes, middle is middle. Middle gets hit.
Yep.
But above the zone, at the bottom of the zone but he was learning. And he's like, okay, so I know if I face a guy like that, I've got to be really disciplined to lay off the ball at the top of the zone. Like, don't swing at it until, 2 strikes. Yep. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But he's like, can I see it with my own eyes? And I was like, well, where you're going at Mississippi State or maybe pro ball, they're going to have all the data. You just got to know how to consume it and process it. But it was next level. It was the first time that I was like, oh, hitters need this information just as much as the pitchers do. And look, at the good colleges and even good high schools or summer programs, but especially at the pro levels, they're teaching it.
Yeah.
So we're ahead of them a little bit because the data just plays with the ball flight a little better than swing paths and all that stuff. I think Butch Chafin was, Team USA. I saw a video of him, and I think he had the hack attack at 6 foot, 6.5 feet, but he had a string going to the hitting zone. And all it said, and I didn't watch it because I was probably at a stoplight and I couldn't, I was like, all right, I got to get back on the road. But I know he was, and it said, can our hitters match the plane of the pitch? Can our hitters do that? So we think about like hitting the ball or what our swing looks like, but the truth is, we're trying to match the plane of where it's crossing the plate so we can square it up the best we can.
Absolutely.
And it was just such a good visual representation of that thought. Yeah. And so that was what I was, thinking about the rest of the day. Actually, it was yesterday. How do I don't do hitting, but I do want hitters to understand the qualities that this is bringing to the table.
Man, and we're running short on time, but I got 2 more questions that I have to ask you based on this conversation. Is I want to know if for the people out there, like, to me, it's obvious that you have to learn the language of analytics if you want to be successful in this game moving forward. I'm not saying I'll just say it like that. It's part of the game. It's a language that you should learn because it might be able to help you. If someone was listening to the Baseball Forward podcast, listening to Chad Durbin, episode 88, if you were gonna send someone and say, hey, Chad, how do I go learn about TrackMan and Rapsodo and what the terms mean, and what would your response be in sending someone to learn about this stuff for the first time?
Well, we get that question, kind of often. Parents are just curious. I'm like, ChatGPT it.
Yeah.
And tell ChatGPT, prompt it in a way, or any AI that you're using, or if you're going to do a Google search, it's going to go through Gemini to some level, but tell it who you are, your level of like baseball knowledge. And if it's a dad who played another sport who thinks he might get it, well, talk to me like I'm a 6th grader and explain to me the top 10 pitching metrics on TrackMan and explain to me what they are. And it's going to give you the bullets. And then you can, if you don't understand it, say, okay, dumb it down even more.
Yep.
And it's going to dumb it down even more. Ask for visual representations of it. It's going to give you, it might give you terrible diagrams, it might give you great ones, but be curious, not judgmental, be curious. And I think that's a Ted Lasso thing, but that really is the way I stay curious.
Yep.
Whenever anything comes up, I'm just, okay, well, what does this mean? How can I apply it or choose not to? And then what I would tell any of those people is if you can or you can't understand it, players or parents or coaches, it still comes down to who wins the 0-0 count, who wins the 1-1 count, who throws the most strikes, and, how do we execute a plan? So if you are 65+% strikes in a game, you're going to be successful. If you win the 1-1 count at 60% or better, you're probably going to look at the box score later and it's going to be pretty good. And over the long, tail, statistical distribution, water's going to find its level. And if you can win those counts, if you can go out and you can pound the zone, your best stuff doesn't always win. Because when I'm facing, I'll use this, and I know we need to go in a second, but I'll use Chipper Jones as an example. In my head, and this was prior to a lot of this metrics and all that stuff, I had to choose which Chipper Jones I wanted to face. Do I want to face the 1-0 count Chipper Jones? No. Do I want to face the 0-1 Chipper Jones? Yes. Preferably the 0-2 Chipper Jones.
Yeah.
And he took a lot of first pitch strikes. So I just hammered a first pitch strike. And if he hits it, he hits it. Let's get this done with. But I wanted him to be the 265 to 285 Chipper Jones, not the 350 plus. And I think that, imagine what a high school hitter is in an 0-1 count.
Oh my gosh. Against
a quality arm.
Correct.
It's going to be a complete, we're talking 200 to 400.
Yep.
Why not set yourself up? And this is kind of my last little wrap, and then we can do whatever we do at the end. I think the high school batting order, excuse me, and the coach, there's a mentality to it. And if you're constantly pounding the zone, you're gonna have to change that team's approach. They're 0-1 on deck. They're 0-1 in the hole. They're like, man, he's pounding the zone. He is setting the tone.
Yep.
They're passive in their approach. Like, even if they got to go swing at the first pitch, is that their approach? Now you've got them doing something they don't normally do.
Awesome.
So you go, anyway, the old school metrics, the simple of it, get ahead, stay ahead, bury guys, put your foot on their neck when you can, because if they get the chance, you've seen what 2-0 swings look like.
Right.
I picture Jose Canseco like swinging, coming unglued. Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, what do they look like 2-0? Man, they look like they're about to make Sports Center, or they're about to be on MLB Network. So you choose which guy you want to face.
That is such good advice. And you do such a good job of marrying the old with the new. I know you have your own reasons and whatever. It blows my mind that you're not a big league pitching coach. Last thing that I'm going to say to you, just from a personal standpoint, your son had Tommy John 7 weeks ago, and this is obviously met with like just love and respect, because I have two sons that I worry about, right? And they throw. Is there something you would have done differently? Do you feel like you could predict the Tommy John? I feel like it's so normal now to get Tommy John, but do you look back and say, I wish I would have done this differently? I wish I would have maybe handled this. Is there anything that you, and obviously everything happens for a reason, but what advice would you have for guys in my situation that are just, and I know you were trying the absolute best to keep your son healthy, obviously, but what advice do you have in that sentiment?
Well, so I guess the first thought for me was, it sucks. And then the silver lining guy, the optimist, kicks in. And there's a ton. He was 18 in August, so he basically becomes a 26. And there's, a medical red shirt, and he has 4 years of eligibility. Like, it almost resets his clock.
Yep.
And it takes one of the potential yellow or red flags on his potential. If you're ever good enough in college to be a pro, this makes it a little more likely. Yeah, that it could happen. Causation, we sat down and Tyler Knockin and we tried to think about it. And so we tried to gather as much information. He's mechanically really sound. When he was younger, he was a little late getting the arm up because he's got a ton of whip, a ton of spin. He was spinning the ball 3,200 before his breaking balls before he actually got hurt. So to do that, you have to have pretty clean mechanics.
Yeah.
He went from about 165 at 6 foot tall and gaining weight down into the 140s. He got long COVID in March. And so he was still throwing 87 to 90 miles an hour, maybe bumping a 91 every now and again. But at 145, 148 pounds, the body just can't hold. Like, so if anything we would have been able to do is, I don't know, put some kind of monitor on to show when he was truly fatigued, because he, if we took him out of a game at 60 pitches, what high school coach is going to do that?
Correct.
And what kid is going to be okay with it?
Correct.
You're in the playoffs. He got hurt about 90 pitches in. I think it was the 6th inning of 85 pitches in the playoffs. And he was just carving the team up, doing really well. And he threw a pitch up, and he kind of pointed at his elbow and called the coaches out and did the test and all that stuff. He didn't have surgery then. He had surgery October 16th. So we RTT'd it. We returned to throw program. It was a small tear. But if we could have done anything different, I don't know, put 40 pounds on him. We were trying.
Yeah.
I don't think there was much we could do. Again, God's plan, that type of stuff. Right. It all plays out the way. But as far as my concern with my 13-year-old is this going to happen again? I had it. Is this a DNA flaw? Is it, that you get the upside, but you're going to get the downside?
Wow.
But the truth is, it's soft tissue. You do the best you can, have the best plans in place. If anybody listening wants to reach out through you or find PPA on Twitter and reach out, and we can give you a plan. But you want to do the best possible, job of setting them up for success. And sometimes injuries happen. Knees happen, ankles happen, hips happen, obliques happen, shoulders happen, elbows happen. And you just have to adjust that on the fly and try to do the best you can from where you are.
I thought about this the other day as a 45-year-old man, Chad. Like, I'll call it straight up. Sometimes I can't feel my fingers, and I have numbness in my hand, and I wake up and my shoulder is just,
I'm over here working mine right
and I got a vibration plate, and I'm like, is that helping? I think it's circulating my blood. But my point in saying that is there's a cost. Like, I wouldn't, the ability for me to throw a baseball the way that I wanted to throw it was one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced. And it was one of the most amazing things I ever experienced. It led me through some dark times too, but I, as a 45-year-old man, I sit here and I ask that question because I'm like, would you do it? Hell yeah, I would do it again, because
we wouldn't change much.
I can't feel my hand. Whatever. And who knows if I ever will, but I think about your son, and I think about my sons, and and the guys coming up. It's like, there's almost like an inherent risk. It's not a natural position to be in to throw a baseball. And I think there's just some inherent risk, but boy, the upside, if you have like what Cade's potential is, I'm taking that risk 100% of the time, and maybe 100, maybe 2 times.
No doubt. And I'll say this real quick. I know we keep saying that, but the Southern Miss staff, Coach Ostrander, Christian's one of the best pitching guys in baseball. Gunnar Leger's there, Ladd, Creel, like their entire staff, their strength coach, their trainer, their guidance. I mean, everybody that has anything to do with staff, they all reached out to him. He didn't want to talk to me. He got the 85% tear MRI results back. And I said, hey, you want to talk? He's like, no, I'm good. Not that I'm good. I do not want to talk to you right now about this. I just need to process. And then I guess in 15-minute increments, they called him and explained to him, yeah, it sucks, but here are the silver linings. Here's what this is going to look like. Guys come back from this at a high level. You are 18. You'll be 19 and a half when you're back to on the mound and pitching. You'll have gained weight. You'll have gained experience. You'll have gotten used to college experience. Like, they really did a good job. And I know a lot of staff.
That's awesome.
But man, just a tip of the hat to those guys for seeing what the need was with that individual kid.
Wow. Love that.
And preparing him. By 24 hours later, he was on to, I just want to get the surgery done and start my protocol.
Wow.
I want to start on my path back and there's dark times that go with it because you're not playing the game you love, and you're not, you're going through a major surgery.
Yeah.
But you start that path, and there's a life lesson to be said there. Just showing up and doing what's on the list.
That's right.
And that's kind of where he is. And I think this is the opportunity. I'm not going to apologize at all for, having given him a pretty good life so far. But this is the failure and the adversity that no one can protect you from.
Amen.
And he's doing such a good job of just knocking out the days. And that's a lesson to be learned for my kid, but it's a lesson to be learned for anybody that goes through an injury. It sucks. But what am I going to do today to get better?
Amen.
Yeah.
Man. And Cade, just keep grinding, dude, because man, it's worth it. It's worth it. And he knows it and he loves it, because you know what? If he didn't love it, he wouldn't grind his tail off. And
no doubt. That's my neighbor said. I guess we'll find out if he loves it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's a fact. Chad Durbin here. Hey, what I want you to do is I want you to tell the audience again. I have a feeling there's more coming between us and everything, but we won't get into that. But tell the audience where they can find you. Guys, go hunt this guy down on Twitter and on social media. His stuff will just propel you. It'll impact you in such a positive way. Tell them where they can find you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, you can find it on Twitter. You can find me, Durbinator, 37, I think is what my Twitter account is, but that's Chad Durbin, Performance Pitching Academy, PPA BR, which is Baton Rouge.
Yep.
You can find it there. On Instagram, I think it's Performance Pitching Academy, like the long hand there. But if you just seek out my name, you'll find a lot of it. And then, if you want to get in touch, reach out, DM, do whatever we can. And we can, go back and forth, set you up for whatever you need, really.
You are an excellent ambassador to this beautiful game that we get to be involved in, man.
So are you. You're doing phenomenal.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you for saying that. So, hey, we'll talk soon. Episode 88 of the Baseball Forward podcast. We'll see you guys soon.